The squat is probably the most recognized exercise of all time. But the question we're going to talk about today is whether or not you need to be doing it. That's a very broad question, and I'm sure there's a broad audience wondering about this. So I'm going to give you a very short and simple answer. The short answer here is no. You don't necessarily need to be squatting, but the more complicated answer is possibly. If that's all you needed from this video, go ahead and drop it a like and move on with your life. But if you want to have a little bit more in-depth conversation about whether or not you need to be squatting, stick around. All right, what's going on, Perform24 family? Levi Jaeckel back in the garage again. Today is day 11 of Squatober. I'm currently following the Pen and Paper Strength app Instagram page, following along the Squatober programming all month. I did this last year for the first time, and I'm doing it again this year. And then I'm also making a corresponding video every weekday for the month of October. So today we're going to be talking about whether you need to be squatting in the first place. Again, for those of you guys that don't know, I've been training as my job, as my primary source of income now for a long time, over 10 years, which is pretty crazy. I started my own training business in 2014 called Perform24. It's located in South Tampa, Florida. Making internet videos in my garage with my YouTube friends is just kind of like a side project, okay? But I say all that just to let you know, like, I've been training for a long time. Okay? I've spent a lot of time in the gym, programming for people, coaching people, and working with people, okay? And all ranges of people. The great thing about my job in Perform24 is that the Perform24 family is very diverse, okay? We've got high-end athletes, we've got regular people, we've got people with injuries, we've got people that needed to lose a lot of weight. So we've seen kind of the gamut in the spectrum. And maybe this is surprising, maybe this isn't, but I actually don't program the barbell back squat all that often. And that goes for both like the pro athlete clientele and like the high-end performance athletes and just the regular adults. We call them lifestyle athletes. So our lifestyle athletes don't have a competitive season, but they're all about that life. Okay, so they train hard and they love the gym and they love taking care of their body, but they're not necessarily training for a specific competition. That's a lifestyle athlete. So both our professional athletes and our lifestyle athletes don't see a whole lot of barbell back squatting in their programming. Now, that's not to say that we don't train legs hard, because if you trained with me or if you've seen some of my programming on Instagram, you know that I hammer people's legs. I just do that with exercises that are a little bit different than the back squat. The back squat requires a whole lot of functions in the body to be working well, okay, and not overstressed, okay? So like for our baseball population, just getting their arms back behind a straight bar can sometimes be uncomfortable on those shoulders that are just getting worked super hard throughout the year. So in their case, maybe we're using a safety squat bar. Okay, so we're using a safety squat bar. It takes their shoulders out of it, but it still loads their spine vertically in a squat pattern. So those are the types of things that I'm talking about. We'll use trap bar deadlift, which is similar to a barbell back squat in a way. I use Bulgarians all the time. So Bulgarian split squats, in my opinion, that almost is a necessity. I'd program Bulgarian split squats all the time. And then I also program reverse lunges with a barbell or a safety squat bar all the time. So, you know, it's not to say that we don't use the squat pattern, because that is not true at all. But we don't necessarily train just a true barbell back squat very often. Now, if you are competing in a sport that happens inside the gym, okay, whether that's powerlifting or a CrossFit or a strongman or something, then you absolutely need to be training the barbell back squat. That is a non-negotiable. You need to be proficient in that, and you need to be strong in that. The people that I'm working with, some of them do compete, but they compete in sports that happen outside of the weight room. And so we aren't married to any specific exercise. All we care about is like how people are moving and feeling and performing outside of the gym. And then the roadmap that we build inside the gym kind of depends on that. So the roadmap that we take differs like crazy. So, you know, the barbell back squat is always an option, but it's just that, it's an option. Guys, sometimes we choose it and sometimes we choose something else for one of a variety of reasons. Okay, so one exercise that I did want to highlight specifically is the Landmine Squat. The Landmine Squat is one of my very favorite squat patterns, and I love it because it's almost dummy proof. I can use this with a ton of different people. Again, like performance athletes or regular people or people that need to lose weight or people that are training for like endurance events like half marathons and stuff like that. It's a very safe, but it's a very effective way to train your squat. And I should honestly make an entire video about that, just because I think if you master the landmine squat, which it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to master it, you put it in your program once a week, and after 3 or 4 weeks, like, you've got that forever, and then that movement translates directly to the barbell. So maybe I'll make an entire video just on the landmine squat. And finally, let's talk about me. Let's get personal here. So, how I handle other people's training and other people's programming is one thing, but how I handle my own programming is a completely different topic. I actually didn't squat. After I left my college athletic days, I didn't really barbell back squat at all. And so I probably spent 8 to 9 years away from the barbell back squat. About this time last year, I started kind of looking myself in the mirror and having hard questions with myself on whether or not I was going to master that movement or not. And that's what kind of led me to Squatober 2020, which I talked about that in some of the videos from last year, but I didn't feel like my squat was adequate. I felt like just my profession, I needed to build that up. And so I spent the month of October in 2020 working on that. Since then, throughout the last year, I've squatted a lot. It has become a staple in my programming. And then this October, I think it's really starting to fly. So I've put a lot of work into my squat pattern over the last 12 to 13 months, and it certainly is paying off. But all that to say, I still am not going to force any of my clients or any of my athletes into that movement. And I'm not necessarily going to name it like the king of all exercises or anything like that. It requires a lot of mobility. Ankles, knees, hips all need to be mobile. It requires a very strong core. And then it also just kind of requires some confidence. I think that putting your bar on your back is a lot more intimidating than trying to pull a barbell off the floor. And so that element of the training the back squat is also relevant. All right, so that's going to wrap up some short thoughts on whether or not I think you should be back squatting. Hopefully you can apply that to your own training. Hopefully you did find something helpful. I do like the exercise. I think it is going to produce a lot of results. It is definitely going to get you strong. So if you want to get strong, a barbell back squat is something that you should very heavily consider using, but it isn't necessary. Okay, so I've got some super strong people in my gym that don't barbell back squat. Okay, we do other things. They're still very strong and they still move well and they still feel great. So at the end of the day, that's a win for them. If you like this video, a thumbs up goes a long way. If you do back squat or if you don't back squat, comment. Let me know why. And as always, train hard, live full, and I will catch you in the next video.